Hello, everyone. All right, so today's day two, and I'm going to get started with. So I'm going to try and hopefully make these videos as structured as possible. And what I hope to do is every day just start with a quick um, summary of the daily weight and waist circumference, which are the two main measurements I'm going to be doing daily to track my progress and weight loss. And then I'm going to just delve into maybe some significant events that happened that day that might have affected the fast or that might affect your fast if you choose to do so. And then lastly, I'm going to try and just talk about one very important concept related to weight loss, diabetes, and fasting as well. So to get started, so yesterday was my first. Yesterday I stopped eating, and that was day zero. Today's day one. I'm about 24 hours in, or just over that. So around 11 p.m. On a Wednesday, November 9th. Um, and so what I'm going to start with is my weight today. So yesterday I was about 204 and change. Today I'm 203.4 pounds. So I lost about a pound since yesterday. Again, this pound I lost is probably just water weight. Probably not a big difference because I didn't really. Um, it's only been less than 24 hours, so not too impressed by that. And I didn't measure my waist circumference yesterday, but my waist circumference today is 104 centimeters. So I'm going to keep tracking that every day. And waist circumference is really important, and I'll talk about this in a future video about measurements and the importance of measurements. But waist circumference is a good measure of the abdominal obesity and your abdominal girth, and that's a good indicator for risk factors for heart disease and things like that. And also, it's where a lot of fat is stored. There are other places that are more dangerous, like inside of your organs, which you can't really see, and that's why sometimes you'll have very skinny people, relatively thin-looking people who have heart attacks, strokes, and diabetes, and that's because their fat is being stored around their vital organs, and you can't really see that. So, but in any case, so I'm going to be tracking waist circumference, um, and so that's that. In terms of significant things that happened to me today, I guess the biggest thing in terms of hunger, I did have definitely big spikes in hunger today, especially when I saw other people eating around me and really good smells of food. But thankfully it didn't waver, and those waves passed. And even right now, I'm definitely feeling a bit hungry, but it's been overall no complaints. It's been 24 hours now since I've eaten any food. And again, just to recap for anyone who hasn't watched my videos before, this is day one of a 30-day continuous acaloric fast, which means that I'm only going to be drinking unlimited amounts of water, tea, and coffee, but nothing else other than that. No solid foods, and maybe some bone broth as well, which is another liquid that I'm allowed to drink. So in terms of significant things that happened, so I talked about my hunger. The other big thing today was I actually went today for something called a DEXA body composition scan. There's one clinic downtown that's called the Bone Wellness Center, and there's the lady who operates the facilities there. Her name is Salima. She was very, very knowledgeable. She's been in the business for about 20 years doing DEXA scans. Basically, a DEXA scan is an X-ray scan, and again, I'll be talking about this more later. That's sort of when I talk about monitoring and things like that. But essentially, it's a scan that goes from head to toe and gives you a pretty accurate measurement of lean body mass, in terms of your muscle mass and fat mass as well. So again, I'll talk about this later. But today, when I went, I was really shocked to find out that 40% of roughly 40% of my body weight, actually, I have it right here. It says 36.5%. Sorry, my total body fat percentage is 38%. So roughly 40% of my body is just fat. So I weighed about 203.6 pounds according to the machine, and the amount of fat there was 74.4 pounds. So it was a pretty ridiculous amount of fat there. So this is really really alarming. But again, I did this because I wanted to get a good and accurate reading of my my body composition before this longer fast, and hopefully can compare it to a couple of months after to see how that changes, and hopefully it'll change for the best. And again, the goal would be to decrease as much the fat percentage and to increase as much as the muscle mass percentage. So my lean muscle mass was about 121.4 pounds. And in terms of percentage wise, what percentage was yeah, I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's here somewhere, but anyway, it's the fat percentage that's really worrisome. So that's that, and so that was a pretty crazy revelation. Now, in terms of the topic for today, I wanted to just talk. Obviously, I'm doing this to lose weight, so I wanted to talk a little bit about why do we gain weight, and more specifically, why do other diets not work? So, the biggest reason that we gain weight is, or the biggest challenge with gaining weight is a lack of accurate information about why we gain weight. And the reason why that's important is because if you don't really know why we gain weight, it's going to be very hard to lose all of that weight. And unfortunately, it's taken a long time for us to try to get to a state. And even though the knowledge and the science has been here for a long time, mainstream science and media hasn't really portrayed the right information. So the main thing right now, if you go to any weight loss expert, in school and anywhere else, they'll tell you that the reason that people get fat is very simple. It's that you eat more and you move less, or you take more calories in than calories out. And although that sounds very intuitive and it sounds very simple and it sounds like it makes sense, it's not really true at all when it comes to gaining weight. So it's a pretty big false assumption that has been perpetuated, and a lot of weight loss diets and things like that have been based on this. And the reason most of them fail is because this hypothesis is not true, and it's not true for a number of reasons. So I think the best way to think about this is that the body is not static. So if you stop, let's say you normally take 2,000 calories a day, or let's say 3,000, and you gain weight, you start to gain weight because let's say you only need your basal metabolic rate, or the amount of energy your body actually uses, is only 2,000 calories, and you're taking 3,000 calories, so that you have sort of 1,000 calorie surplus, which you think would get stored by the body, and that'll turn into fat and cause you to gain weight. Now, if you were to do the reverse, or if you were to decrease the amount of calories, so any diet would say, okay, so you're taking 3,000, let's bring that down to 1,500, let's cut that in half. So you think that if you cut that in half, you're going to lose 1,500 calories every day, and you'd be able to lose all that weight that you put on. But it actually doesn't work like that. So that's where a lot of diets fail. So if you stopped taking as 3,000 calories a day and cut it down to 1,500 calories per day, your body adapts to that, and also it decreases its metabolic requirements, so that in the end you might actually not end up losing anything, right? It's kind of like if you and there's a great book about this whole topic of why people got fat, and it's called The Obesity Code, and it's showing upside down, I guess, because of the camera, but it's written by Jason Fung, and again, he's the one who sort of inspired me to go on this journey myself. And after seeing patients in his clinic, I learned a lot more about what we don't know about obesity, and more I guess the more correct information about obesity that I had all wrong, because unfortunately, I wasn't really exposed or thought about it much beforehand. So I'd recommend anybody to learn more about it. This is sort of a short video, but this is a whole book right about it. But essentially, what happens is if you, a good model and a good analogy that he uses to explain the discrepancy here is that if you were on a salary of $100,000 per year and you're sort of spending within that budget or lifestyle, you'd probably spend close to that $100,000. But next year, if you got a pay cut to about $25,000 a year, you're probably going to also cut down your expenditures, and you wouldn't continue to spend $100,000 a year because you don't even have that much money, right? So the same thing goes with your body. If you suddenly decrease how much energy you're taking in, your body also decreases how much energy it uses, and in the end, you might end up with a zero balance, or something close to that. And that's why, if you heard, there was a recent huge news article about The Biggest Loser, the show that makes people lose a lot of weight, and they found that most of the people who had gone through that had gained all their weight back, and more importantly, they had found that their metabolism had slowed down because of the way that they were dieting. And then the other assumption is, and also, and the other way to think about the calories in, calories out is, if you really think about it, they've been telling us this for about 50 years now. Right? If you exercise more, eat less, you're going to lose a lot of weight. But clearly, that hasn't worked. The rates of obesity continue to go up. Rates of diabetes, heart attacks continue to go up. Have continued to go up in the last 50 years, and so I think perpetuating that kind of information, clearly has not helped at all the situation at all. So we definitely need another approach. The second assumption is a calorie is a calorie, and this is also not true in that sense. So if you were to take a calorie of sugar and a calorie of fat, and swallow both of them, and a calorie of protein, the way your body responds to each of these calories is not the same, and it has to do with the hormone called insulin. And insulin is really the reason why we gain weight, and it's the reason why we get diabetes. Anytime you consume anything, insulin is always secreted, and the purpose of insulin is to help push the body to take up that energy from that you're eating, and pushing that into the cells, and if there's excess, building fat and things like that. So the way it works is sugar spikes your insulin the most. After that is protein, and then the lowest is fat. So if you had 1,000 calories of sugar and 1,000 calories of fat, that 1,000 calories of sugar would cause you to gain way more weight than 1,000 calories of fat, because sugar will spike your insulin way more than fat would, and that will make you gain way more weight, and make you more insulin resistant. And we'll talk more about insulin resistance when I talk about diabetes. So, so the reason that we gain weight is strictly hormonal. It's based on insulin, and if we can understand insulin properly and how it's secreted, then we can understand how to break the chain of insulin and start to move into weight loss, which is what I hope to achieve and what I hope to accomplish with fasting. So that's that. It's sort of a brief summary of why you gain weight. If there's any questions or anything else that I glanced over or didn't explain properly, please feel free to comment below. I'll also put the links in where you can purchase the obesity book, obesity code, and the complete guide to fasting. Again, I'm not benefiting anything from these books, and I don't gain anything from you guys buying these books, other than knowing that you guys will be more educated and have more information that's useful and can help change the lives of yourselves and hopefully the lives of others as well. So with that, thanks so much for listening. Tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit more about what is fasting, and the different types of fasting, and why fasting would work. And then on day 3, I'll talk a little bit about the safety with regards to fasting, because I know a lot of people are concerned for my safety and probably concerned for their own safety if they start fasting. So I think that's an important thing to consider, and I hope to address that. And again, feel free to leave any comments, messages, feedback that you think would help me make these videos more informative and helpful. Thanks so much. Hope you guys have a great night.